The person who invented the earth scraper is truly a genius. To address the shortage of land resources, the designer came up with the idea of an underground world. First, engineers need to dig a giant pit 300 meters deep in the city center. Then, within the pit, they build an inverted pyramid structure. The entire building has 85 floors and can accommodate up to 100,000 people. This inverted pyramid design allows each floor's residents to receive sunlight. The top of the building is covered by a huge glass dome, which also serves as a public square for nearby residents. In addition to residential areas, the designer thoughtfully includes museums, offices, shopping streets, parks, and more, creating an underground life experience identical to life on the surface. At this point, you might wonder, what would happen if there's an earthquake or a flood? In fact, earth scrapers can significantly reduce the damage caused by earthquakes and tornadoes. However, the challenge of how to evacuate 100,000 residents in the event of a flood or fire remains an unsolved problem. Therefore, the concept of earth scrapers has not yet been realized. If this concept becomes a reality one day in the future, would you live there?
Well, I would have to say, folks, that no frickin' way would I want to live in a place like that. Be like the perfect 15-minute city, wouldn't it? Totally controlled environment. Yeah, crazy stuff. Almost reminds me, funny how the predictive program works, but it actually reminds me of a recent series that was on TV or HBO or something like that.
We do not know how long we have been underground, or who built the silo. We do not know why there is no life outside the silo. We only know that here is safe, and there is not.
Have you ever noticed anything strange about the silo?
Some mysteries are best left unsolved.
What's the big question?
What if everything you know to be true was one big lie?
Yeah, it looks kind of similar, doesn't it? And I imagine you would be faced with the same sort of problems that they were having in that TV series. Not a good place to be, folks. Not a good place to be, but hey, that's what they're doing. And it doesn't surprise me that they would think of something like this. Sort of goes right in cue with the line that they're creating in Saudi Arabia, doesn't it? Yeah. Next level weirdness, folks, in the world. Next level weirdness. Next level everything, really. You've probably heard about the huge power blackout in Europe. France, Portugal, Spain. Of course, straight after they went over to renewable energy, Spain, I think, got rid of all of their power plants. Actually trashed them all, demolished them. Didn't just turn them off, demolished them. And switched over to 100% sustainable, renewable, safe, clean energy. That's what they like to call it anyway. And then had a massive power blackout of everything. All the infrastructure went down. Remarkable stuff how that works, folks. Very typical of everything they do. But what else can you expect from these people? There was actually a major power blackout in Bali yesterday as well. I got a message from a friend. Power went out at 3 p.m. local time, and it was a complete blackout of the entire island. Everything went down. They couldn't even use their toilets because all of the water is pumped. So they couldn't use their taps, they couldn't flush their toilets, they couldn't do anything. And it was apparently an undersea cable, problem with an undersea cable. And so no power in Bali. That lasted for about, I don't know, 7 or 8 hours, 9 hours, something like that. It came back on, I think at around midnight yesterday in Bali, so it wasn't too bad. They were thinking it might be for a few days. You know, and when you look at that and you look at the power blackouts we've had all through Mexico when I was there, even when I got back to Australia, power was out here for like 10 days straight, and due to a cyclone, of course, and they were very, very slow at fixing it up. I think all of this sort of stuff is kind of preparing people to just get used to infrastructure breaking down and get used to blackouts and stuff like this. You know, don't get too dependent upon their electrical system. Of course, we could all have free energy the way we did back in the old world, but no, they won't tell you that. They'll tell you that's just a conspiracy theory or whatever, you know. I don't know, ask Grok. And Grok won't tell you the truth, folks. There's been a lot of talk about all this AI stuff, you know, Chat GTP and Grok and all this sort of stuff. And people are using Grok to find information now. I said this a couple of years ago. I said that pretty soon search engines will be replaced by AI, and people won't be using like Google search or Yandex or whatever it is that people use, Brave. They'll just be using AI and asking AI questions. And of course AI will be giving them the response that the people who programmed the AI want them to have. A great example of that is I was having a debate with someone on X the other day. Not really a debate, kind of a question, just a little chat thread. And they were talking about the jab vaccines. And I said the vaccine wasn't safe, it wasn't really a vaccine, and that there are over 40,000 dead or injured from the jab just here in Australia. And that figure globally would be way, way higher than that. And even the 40,000 is a conservative estimate. And the guy came back to me and said, no, I asked Grok. And Grok said that there's no confirmation of any vaccine injured, and that the vaccine likely saved around about 14 million lives. That's the COVID jab, right? So this is what Grok is telling people. So if you think Grok is going to tell you the truth, and you think any of this AI stuff is going to tell you the truth, well, no, it's not. It's getting information from you that it's using to program itself, and it's learning from people. But when you ask it questions and sort of use it as a search engine or a source of reliable information, well, it's not really giving you what you think it's giving you, folks. It's giving you what it's programmed to give you. Because there's no way the jab saved 14 million lives. It probably took double the lives that it's claiming that it saved, and that's a conservative estimate. So watch out for all this stuff, folks. You know, things are really changing rapidly. Trump is making sure the United States is changing. The amount of legislation and stuff that he's doing, and the amount of executive orders he's signing, he's pulling massive amount of funding out of education and housing in the United States and putting it all into border security and defense. Like as if America needs to spend more on the military. Of course, they need to spend more on military so they can send more weapons to Israel so Israel can kill more children. The situation in Gaza is absolutely horrendous and getting worse by the day, and I'll get onto that in a little while. But yeah, Trump's cutting spending all over the place, folks. Cutting spending with education, cutting spending with houses, which is two places that probably need more spending. Of course, real education would be helpful. Not putting much effort into that. And housing, and there's housing crises everywhere, and there's Trump cutting funding from housing. Interesting stuff. Where else is he cutting funding from? He's cutting funding from NASA. NASA, not a space agency. Never a straight answer, whatever you want to call it. Cutting massive amounts of funding from NASA. And what's he doing with it? Well, he's giving a lot of it to Elon Musk. So Elon Musk can send a mission to Mars. So he's basically removing funding from NASA and giving it to one of his buddies. You can't make this shit up, folks. It's a fucking clown show. The whole world's turned into a clown show. Not that it really wasn't a clown show before, but it's getting more and more like that as the days go on. Back here down at the creek, folks. Beautiful day. Well, a little cloudy, but it's beautiful anyway. I do like the creek here. Yeah, AI is really going forward in leaps and bounds, folks. AI is going to take all the jobs from people. I even said that. I think Bill Gates said that a year or two ago. Said that humans won't really be needed anymore and they'll decide who gets the jobs.
People are like, wow, this is a bit scary. It's completely new territory.
I mean, will we still need humans?
Not for most things. We'll decide.
Yeah, very confidence-inspiring, folks. So this is, I mean, the whole thing about tax being removed, Trump wants to cancel income tax and all this sort of stuff. I talked about that, I think, on the last report. You're not going to need to have income tax because everyone's going to be on a universal basic income because there's not going to be any jobs. And when people ask what all the problems are all about and why things have got that way, they'll probably ask Grok, and Grok will give them the response that they want. It's just a freaking joke, folks. It's an absolute joke. And this whole play for total world domination, which is being run by the people with small hats. And they're fully being exposed. I mean, fully being exposed. So many people have gotten onto what Israel's really doing and what it's really all about now. They played their hand a little bit too violently and too early with the whole Gaza situation. So many people speaking out about it now, even though they're telling you that you're anti-Semitic if you speak out about it, and even reporting on it is blood libel towards the Jews, and you can't have balanced media because objective media favors Hamas, all sorts of shit. People have really gotten the idea now of what Israel's all about and where it's going. But this is a whole push for world takeover, and in the midst of all their violence and all their brutality and their child slaughter and everything they're doing, there was one woman, I think at a United Nations conference or World Economic Forum or some globalist frickin' event, was saying that we're just going to do it. We've been kicked out of everywhere, but we've survived, and the only way people are going to survive is to love us. You have to love Israel or you're not going to last, you're not going to survive. It's kind of like a veiled threat when you listen to what she's actually saying.
Every culture that's tried to destroy us has vanished, while the Jewish people has survived. What's kept us going through the centuries? Staying true to what we are. The West is paralyzed before the Islamist death cult that threatens it, because the West is itself gripped by a cultural death wish. The Western culture that stands against the Jews is going down. The West will survive only if it decides to love itself and if it decides to love us, the Jewish people, instead of disdaining us and trying to erase what makes the Jewish people special and what's made the West special too.
Yeah, pretty interesting that she would say something like that, folks. And Israel's just gone hell for leather. They're starving the people of Gaza out. I was speaking to my friend Nadal yesterday, and again, I've got a fundraiser for Nadal down below. If you can possibly slip him any funds, it would be really good. I mean, there's still a couple of shops open, a few shops open in certain areas in Gaza where you can actually go and buy food, but it's incredibly expensive and no one can afford it. No one's got any money because there's no work, because the whole place has been destroyed and turned into a post-apocalyptic wasteland. And it's getting really violent there now because there's no food and people are getting really, really desperate. They're like fighting and clawing over each other to get to what is left of the aid supplies. And the aid supplies are dwindling and dwindling faster and faster. Israel is simply refusing to let any aid in. There's so many children in Gaza that are suffering from malnutrition now.
شو نفسك انت؟
نفسي ارجع زي ما كنت، نفسي شعري يطول، ونفسي أنشطه، ونفسي ارجع المدرسة، ونفسي اصلي وانا واقفة ولا بصلي وانا قاعدة.
خلاص يا رهف تعيطيش شطورة رهف خلاص تعيطيش شاطر تعيطيش خلص شطورة شطورة ها حط ايدك في ايدي يلا حط ايدك في ايدي شطورة طيب تعيطيش دموع غالية والله يلا شطورة خلص تعيط يعني هذه هي حالة الطفلة رهف يعني مع الأسف حلمها بسيط انها تسافر تتعالج.
And there was an aid flotilla, an international aid flotilla that was attempting to reach Gaza, and Israel bombed it. Israel struck it with a drone strike 1,000 miles away from Israel, 1,000 miles off the coast in international waters, with 30 activists on board trying to get aid into Gaza, and Israel bombed them. This is an international act of terrorism. What are we hearing about it from the authorities? What are we hearing about it from the news? Anything on the news at all? Nobody's talking about this sort of stuff. And there was a fire in Israel the other day as well. Apparently it's still burning, it's still pretty bad, but you know, everyone's sort of racing to help them. A few countries refused, Cyprus and Greece. It was requested that they send them firefighting planes, and they both refused to do it. Everyone's actually quite happy to see Israel burning to the ground because they deserve it. But whatever her name is, the head of the European Union, that woman, I can't remember her name offhand, but she's saying Europe's going to rally to go and help save Israel, like everyone's going to do it, we're going to employ all of our emergency services and all sorts of shit. Didn't do shit for Gaza, didn't do anything to save the people there, but Israel's on fire, so we're going to do everything we can to save Israel. And they say they don't know how the fire started. Well, there was reports of settlers setting fire to olive farms in West Bank, and that appears to be where the fire started. Settlers started it, trying to burn out Palestinians, and the wind changed and it all blew onto Israel and caused massive fires in Israel. Got pretty close to Tel Aviv. I don't know whether it's actually reached the city. I mean, personally, I'd like to see the whole place burned to the freaking ground. It's what they deserve. And it's kind of due to happen. I mean, nowhere that the Jews have been, any society they've ever tried to set up, it's never lasted longer than 80 years. And they've been in Palestine now for about, I think, 78 years. So it's kind of due to collapse within the next 2 years, if it's on point with every other time they've tried to set up anything. And it'd be really great to see that happen. So yeah, and it's just horrendous what they're doing there, folks. I mean, it's winter over there and the people are really suffering. Yeah, how do you like it, America? You're feeling like your money's being well spent, letting all this sort of stuff happen? Of course, Trump is totally supporting it. You know, Trump is just owned by Israel. I mean, even Benjamin Netanyahu said recently, we are now in possession of a superpower. And they weren't referring to a weapon or anything. He means they are now in possession of the United States, because the United States is virtually overrun by Israel. It's controlled by Israel. Every politician in there is a Jew or a Zionist, and they're all supporting Israel over America. All they can really talk about is making Israel great again. Nothing much to do with America at all. And that's just the way these politicians operate. There's actually a really good film that came out called The Settlers as well, by a guy called Michael Thoreau, I think his name is. Michael Thoreau? Louis Thoreau. Called The Settlers. And it's great. I've got it posted on my X, my Twitter, and I recommend that you go and check it out. Perhaps I'll even mirror it and post it on BitChute sometime in the next week or two, because it's a really well done film. And it's interesting. I mean, of course the Jews are all saying, oh, this is an incredibly biased point of view, but all he really did, this guy, was go in and talk to Jews. That's the thing about Jews. If you just put them in front of a camera, they totally expose themselves. Like Daniela Wise, the head of the settler movement, some of the stuff she said was very revealing.
I said that what is on my mind all the time is how to bring more people to settle the land. This is a new development by Jews. This is Har Bracha. This is Itzhar. Here we can develop, here we cannot develop. I never think in terms of, I know this is beta. I don't think about beta.
Why not?
Because I think about, I'm a Jew.
The people.
I'm a settler.
The people.
I'm a human being.
Yes, you are. So are they.
So I do not think about this.
You're thinking about tribalism, thinking of your own people to the exclusion. It would be understandable to think of your own people or your own children first, but to think about other people, other children, not at all, that seems sociopathic.
I can...
Doesn't it?
No, not at all. This is normal.
Yeah, these people are just sociopaths, folks. Total sociopaths. You can tell by what they've done in Gaza and what they're continuing to do in Gaza. And they film themselves doing it is this freaky part. Like, they've got so much hubris that they actually film themselves committing war crimes. There were some Israeli soldiers the other day. They were up on a balcony overlooking a UN school where a lot of people are sheltering, and they were just casually dropping grenades into the center of the school, into the courtyard where there's displaced people sheltering in tents. Yeah, very revealing that they're doing that sort of stuff, and they film it. They film their own war crimes. You know, and they've been so brutal, so brutal. See what they're doing, I mean, they're manufacturing their own enemies. Israel and the United States always create their own enemies because, you know, what's the point of having all this big military and all this stuff? And, you know, how do you claim to be victim if you don't have any enemies? So the United States and Israel have been very focused on creating their own enemies. I mean, any Palestinian child that's grown up through this mass slaughter that's happening, any Palestinian around the world, any of the displaced Palestinians, any of the refugees in other countries, when they look back at what Israel has done over the last 18 months in Gaza, they're never ever going to support Israel. They're never ever going to support the United States. So they manufacture their own enemies. Every single child that has seen his parents blown up or had his house blown up or any of this sort of stuff, all of these people are going to be against Israel. Forevermore, they're going to hate Jews. And so Jews can claim to be the victim and claim that they're being attacked and being oppressed and people are anti-Semitic and all this sort of stuff. It keeps their narrative going. They want anti-Semitism because then they can cry victim and they can continue to defend themselves when they're not really defending anything. The whole thing's been a play, folks. The whole thing has been a play. And they're very, very good at doing it. They're very good at manufacturing their own enemies because they need these enemies in order to continue what they're doing. As I said before, I mean, all the Jews should just leave Palestine, leave it to the Palestinian people. Go live in Jewish Autonomous Oblast, which is in eastern Russia. It was created for them in 1929, finalized I think in 1934. They already own it. I tell you that Israel is the only Jewish country, it's the only place we can go. Well, no, it isn't. You can go to Oblast. It was created for you people and doesn't require a genocide for you to go and live there. Of course, they won't tell you that. That's what they should do. And it's just horrendous, folks, the starvation as a weapon of war that they're doing in Gaza. All the stuff they're doing in Gaza, folks, attacking this aid flotilla. It's just... it's mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling. And it really gets to me. It does, you know. Like, I just think of what the people are suffering there, and it's so unnecessary. And it's not a war, it's a slaughter. It takes two armies to have a war. They wouldn't be able to go in and wire up houses and blow up entire suburbs with explosives and all this sort of stuff, blow up entire suburbs in one go, if they were actually fighting Hamas resistance. They just go in there and they displace people and they just do what they want. All based on a lie. Everything is based on a lie. October the 7th was absolutely staged by Israel, allowed to happen by Israel. The highest parts of Hamas, I would suggest, are actually Israeli operatives anyway. I'm sure there's, you know, young freedom fighters that join Hamas and believe they're fighting for freedom, and in many ways they are. But the head of Hamas, it's all run by Israel. I mean, the only person who benefited from what Hamas did on October the 7th, or allegedly did on October the 7th, was Israel. It's the same as World War II. All the stuff we hear about World War II, I mean, do you know how many Russians died? Do you know how many Americans died? How many British? How many French? How many anybody died in World War II? But you know how many Jews died, didn't you? 6 million, of course, all in gas chambers, which is all complete bullshit. There wasn't even 6 million Jews in all of Europe during World War II. And if you look at the population figures for world Jewry, it actually went up by 400,000 during the war years, while they were allegedly killing 6 million. There was actually 15,716,000 Jews in the world at the end of World War II in 1948. And now we're told that 80 years later, almost 80 years later, the Jewish population has finally reached 15 million. Well, hang on, that's 716,000 less than what there was in 1948. I think there's far more Jews in the world than what they tell us. And it's all based on lies anyway. I mean, the Jews started both world wars. They started World War I, they started World War II. The whole concept was about gaining Palestine. That's what it was all for. So they could grab themselves a country, steal a country from someone, cry victim when they're doing it. And the reason they chose Palestine is because Judea is in Palestine, and they can use the word Judea to indicate that because we're Jews, we come from Judea, so therefore we have a right to this place, and we're the only people that has any claim to this place, which of course is all bullshit. And all the stuff that happened in World War II, the book burnings and all that sort of stuff, these are all pornography and LGBTQ stuff, homosexuality, all the stuff that was being promoted in Germany in the 1930s. Germany was pretty much the Sodom and Gomorrah of the world in the 1930s. Hitler came along and stopped all that. So they went to war against them, and it was the Jews who started the war. There's even headlines you can see, Judea declares war on Germany. This is in 1933. And this is really becoming public knowledge as well.
The Holocaust, why it's important, it's not just that it didn't happen, but it's, again, every accusation is a confession. They say Hitler started this war. That's a lie. It's the Jews declared war in 1933 and were seeking it by every possible means. Not that they're ready to fight, but they want every other nation to fight for them against Germany. They say that Hitler wanted to take over Europe. No, it's the Jews that want to take over Europe and indeed the world in fulfillment with the Antichrist plans. They say Hitler was genocidal. No, it's the Jews who had plans during and then after the war to commit a genocide against the Germans, trying to poison 6 million Germans in revenge for what didn't even happen. And then the Morgenthau plan, that this attempt, I mean, 7 to 8, 9 million Germans were killed after the war through starvation and persecution. The starvation that happened in the prison camps. So you see these videos of emaciated corpses at the end of the war. That was not caused by the German policy of how they ran their prisons throughout the whole war. It was caused by the Allied carpet bombing, which destroyed German infrastructure, so you could hardly get food to citizens, never mind to the prisoners, and that's why they succumbed to dysentery and became so emaciated, and so many of them died.
Yeah, a lot of people are getting this, folks. A lot of people are getting it. And not only US pastors, there's actually even Jewish rabbis talking about this.
Who knows the first 2 laws that Hitler implemented? Who knows the first 2 laws? Before the Nuremberg laws. Before that, we're talking about years before it. Hitler first comes into power. What's the first 2 laws? Okay, I'll save you the time. Rule number 1. No more pornography. No more homosexuality. None of that garbage. Not allowed. Berlin, in the 30s, in the 20s, was the Sodom and Gomorrah of the day. Homosexuality, pornography, all the bestiality, all the garbage of the world, that was the capital of the world. He outlawed it. You're no longer allowed, closed all the bars, all the gay clubs, all the production, which were all run by Jewish people, unfortunately. Second rule, you're not allowed to charge interest. No more interest. Now you would think, why? What does he care about interest? Well, because all the people that had the money, that lent the money out, were Jews. He said no more interest. Why? Because of the high interest that the Jews charged people was so high, it ruined, it destroyed the economy in Germany. They destroyed, just like they destroyed Russia a few years before that through their communism over there. Jews destroyed Russia, not Goyim. Jews destroyed. Communism is by Jews. Well, don't let anybody confuse you. You look at history, Karl Marx, all the other Reshaim, they're all Jews. Wicked, but nonetheless Jews. They destroyed Russia, and he wrote in chapter 2 of Mein Kampf, they destroyed Russia, now they're destroying Germany. Go to the store to buy bread, you had to take a whole horse carriage full of money. By the time you arrive at the store, it wasn't enough. Why? Because the inflation rate was so high. The bread became so much more valuable and your money went down. And at that time, the Great Depression was happening around the entire world. Everyone was in a financial collapse. America was a financial collapse. England was a financial collapse. Germany collapsed worse than everybody else. But after he passed this law, within 6 years, Germany became the leading, wealthiest economy in the world. They called it a financial miracle. Why? They were the only ones that were bold enough to stop interest. This is one of the biggest reasons of why he hated Jews. Because they destroyed the economy because of their greed. This is happening again.
Yeah, so that's very telling as well. And that's why all this is about, folks, is a Jewish world takeover and changing the rules in every way possible. I mean, look what India's doing now. India cut off water to Pakistan the other day. Now Pakistanis are saying that they're expecting Israel to, or they're expecting India to strike them anytime within the next few days. And, you know, India went in and bombed that house in Kashmir because there was someone from Pakistan in the house that they didn't like. They're changing the rules, change the rules of war. Now you can just go, it doesn't matter if you're in a civilian area, if there's one person in a crowd of 100 people and they want to kill that one person, they'll just drop a bomb and kill the whole 100 people as long as they get the guy they're after. And they'll claim that he was hiding, using people as human shields. There's no respect for any international law, there's no respect for any more rules of war. It's just go in there and obliterate everybody and everything that you can. And if there was any respect for international law, well, Benjamin Netanyahu would be in jail already. I mean, there's been international warrants put out for him And people have just completely disregarded this. So this kind of means that there is no law. All the pretexts they had of international law, yeah, that was all very well, as long as you don't apply it to us, as long as you don't apply it to Israel, as long as you don't apply it to any Western countries or countries supported by the West that happen to be carrying out war crimes, yeah, it's all good. We'll use it against Saddam Hussein, we'll use it against Gaddafi, we'll use it against Putin, we'll use it against anybody that we want to fashion as the enemy. But you can't put it against us. I mean, we're not committing war crimes, we're just defending ourselves. It's incredible, folks. It's made a mockery of anything that actually looked like international law.
Israel's Prime Minister has rejected the court's authority, asserting that, I quote, "Nobody will stop us, not The Hague, not the axis of evil, and not anybody else." Just 12 days ago, its defence minister declared, in defiance of this court's orders, that, I quote, "Israel's policy is clear and no humanitarian aid is about to enter Gaza." In violation of the court's order to maintain open land crossing points, in particular the Rafah crossing, previously described by the UN High Commissioner as, quote, "the symbolic lifeline for 2.3 million people in Gaza," Israel has closed all crossings, and it has turned Rafah itself, once a refuge for almost 1.5 million displaced Palestinians, into a post-apocalyptic wasteland. The slide on your screens, reflective of the general tenor of Israeli media since at least October 2023, shows Rafah devastated, with the caption, "The annihilation of Rafah is complete," alongside an Israeli flag and a flexed bicep. Plans are reportedly underway for Israel to annex 75 square kilometres of Rafah, 1/5 of Gaza, to Israel's so-called buffer zone, permanently. This, together with Israel's continuing maritime blockade, cuts Gaza and its people off from direct aid and assistance and from the rest of the world.
And Israel wants to take over the world. They don't really care, folks. They're just doing whatever they want to do, and they're going to continue to do so. I mean, maybe that's why we saw these fires in Israel. Maybe there is a God. Who knows, folks? Who knows? But if there was a God, I think the fires would have been a lot worse and Israel would have been destroyed already. Israel is literally the synagogue of Satan, folks. It's nothing like what people think it is. It's an absolute abomination. There needs to be an international coalition. I think I've said this before as well. International coalition to go into Gaza. UN peacekeepers, actually do their job and keep the peace. And, if the United Nations is worth anything, which it isn't, it kind of shows you that it isn't by the fact that this has continued for so long and nothing's been done about it. But there needs to be an international coalition going to Israel and just stop everything. Bomb all their airfields, stop all the weapons production, stop the military from doing what it's doing, and send a huge amount of aid into the people in Gaza and the people in the West Bank, who are beginning to suffer just as much as the people in Gaza.
الله يسامحهم بس يعني احنا ولا سوينا لهم بشيء ولا اذيناهم بشيء. يا أخوي صار 3 أيام أو 4 أيام من أول ما ادينا بلم عند سيدي ما مش أنا مع حالي ينام. وهنا زي ما أنتم شايفين هنا بندورنا بإيدينا. إجانا أمر هاد من البلدين إنه نهد دارنا، وهنا أنا عم بساعد بابا إني أهد، وهي الغرفة كنت أنا حاطة طموحي ولما أكبر إني أدرس فيها وهيك، بس الله يسامحهم يعني ايش عارفين دورنا احنا ولا سوينا لهم شيء ولا شيء، اجوا هايهم هدونا دورهم، انا كنت حاطه طموحي اني ادرس فيها.
The whole goal is to clear out the West Bank, clear out Palestine, clear out everybody in Gaza, clear out everybody and make the whole place part of Israel. And they even say, call it ethnic cleansing, call it whatever you want, but the whole place needs to become Jewish. Oh, yeah, Israel gave them Gaza back in 2005, and look what they've done with it. No, they didn't give them Gaza. They stole the whole freaking country. The whole country used to be Palestine. They stole the whole damn thing. And now they occupy the entire world. They occupy all Western media, all Western governments. They occupy the government here. The only reason that Dutton isn't getting elected, I think the elections are like today or tomorrow or yesterday or something like that. They're voting here in Australia for the new selection.
Just who the fuck you think you are? Can't believe you're still Prime Minister. Guess you're such a parasite. And doesn't we'd be just as fucked if we had you? Cause either way Australia's screwed. Cause you're such a parasite. Jesus Christ, don't you ever give up. We've got such a great country and you're fucking it up. How about doing what we're paying you for? Cause we're working our ass off. Working our ass off. Being fucking assholes. Your head's so far up your bum. You can't hear anyone. You're all fucked up. You're a bunch of parasites.
And everyone was pushing for Dutton to get in, Peter Dutton. Peter Dutton is an ex-drug squad cop, Queensland drug squad, the worst drug squad in Australia, the worst police force in Australia, Queensland. And then he moved to the federal police force and became a federal drug officer. And you got to look at all sorts of stuff like that, like the, what was her name? Famous girl got imprisoned in Bali. Oh, gee, I can't remember her name offhand. I know it really, really well, but it's just on the tip of my tongue and I can't think of it. But there was an Australian girl who got busted taking drugs into Bali a few years ago, like 10, 15 years ago, maybe even 20 years ago. And she ended up going to jail for like nearly 10 years in Bali, in Denpasar jail. And she didn't actually smuggle the drugs. These were drugs that were being smuggled between airports by Australian baggage handlers and Macquarie Bank and the Australian Federal Police. And I think Dutton was working at the Federal Police Force as drug enforcement officer during that time. Wouldn't be surprised if he was involved in that as well. But there's a lot of dirt on him. A lot of people have got a lot of dirt on Peter Dutton. And everybody knows that the guy's a complete psychopath, absolute moron, total globalist. He'd be doing what Trump wants to do to America. He'd be wanting to do this to Australia. And so I don't think anyone's going to let him get in there. And Trump is turning into a full-blown dictator. He really is. Making America great again. Like I said, he's making America great again, but America is a corporation. He's not doing anything for the people. He's making the corporation great, making the corporation more efficient. Closing borders, massive border restrictions, immigration restrictions, spending money on defence and border security and pulling it away from housing, education and everything else where it needs to actually be. Again, it would be good if it was actual education, not what they claim to be education, which is simply indoctrination. But, he's pulling it away from all the wrong areas and he is funneling it into defence and border security. And it isn't to keep the people out, folks, it's to keep the Americans in. The whole world is just going nuts, it really is. And I think we're in for an incredibly interesting year, folks. That's one of the reasons I want to get out of Australia, because I'll probably come back here again. I'm not going to get out for good. I will come back again. I just want to get out before things turn crazy and I can't actually travel at all, because it's incredibly expensive to live here. I don't know how the Australian people are managing it all. I really don't. It's ridiculously expensive, folks. The food is unbelievably pricey. Australia should have one of the highest standards of living in the world, but instead we have one of the highest costs of living in the world. That's very sort of telling, you know. They've got one of the smallest populations and one of the most incredibly resource-rich countries. If any modicum of, oh, rain, look at that, raining. Don't want that. To get under a tree for a minute, I think, folks. Where'd that come from? Sun was out a second ago. But if even a modicum, even a small percentage of the resources of this country were passed down to the people, we would have one of the highest standards of living in the world. But we don't. And that should be very telling for the people. Nice little tree cave here, folks. It's pretty cool, hey? This tree in the middle here. Oh, there's a bit of a cave going on here. It's nice. Yeah. But it's all kind of turning crazy, and like I said, they've changed the rules of everything. You know, like trashing schools in Lebanon as well, and churches in Lebanon. Israel is still bombing Lebanon. Right? Wasn't there a ceasefire? Didn't they just want to go in and get rid of Hezbollah and all this sort of stuff and then create their buffer zone? Why are they destroying Christian schools in southern Lebanon?
Lebanese border village of Sarada, and I want to show you how badly this church has been absolutely desecrated by the Israeli forces. You can see here that there's a bunch of graffiti on the wall, but I think actually that's probably the least offensive thing that we have seen in this church. You can see that the pews have been put together seemingly for soldiers to sleep there. There's also trash across the floor. There's toilet paper, water bottles, condiments, whatever you'd like. But I think one of the most offensive things that we have found in this church is the desecration of religious figurines. So this would have been Jesus. His head is cut off there. Residents tell me that that looks intentional, not part of an explosion or any fighting that may have taken place in this village. You can see here that the rest of the church also seems to have been used by the forces, the Israeli forces, for personal use, pillows, blankets, all in here. And again, just the entire church has been trashed. There's so much soil in it. A lot of it has also been burned. You can see how black these walls are. This kitchen, also belonging to the church, seems to have been used. You can see beans and coffee and whatnot. And this, I think, is again one of the more offensive things that we have found in here. This is the Virgin Mary. Her face seems to have been cut off. You can also see baby Jesus over there, his arm cut off. And actually, the state of this church, it's unique, but the entire town, and this is a very small town, there are only some 8 families living here. All of the town really looks like this. We were speaking to a fellow, so sweet, loves this place so much. He spent 12 years building up his house. His house is now completely gone. I'm going to take you outside just so you can see a little bit of how the village looks like. But I will also tell you that for residents of this village, the most horrifying part isn't even necessarily the state that the village has been left in, but also the fact that the Israelis still remain on that hilltop. That is one of the 5 military positions that the Israelis are remaining in violation of the ceasefire agreement and in what constitutes an ongoing occupation of Lebanese soil.
Yeah, very, very revealing, folks. They don't care. They break all their ceasefires. Break the ceasefires with Lebanon, they break the ceasefires they make with Gaza all the time. They're bombing Syria as well. They were striking places really, really close to the capital, Damascus in Syria, the other day. Attacking this aid flotilla, trying to bring aid to the people in Gaza. But we've got to love them or die.
Love us, the Jewish people, instead of disdaining us and trying to erase what makes the Jewish people special.
Yeah, just wonderful stuff, folks. Wonderful stuff. Just got to love them because they're such sweet people. And they're just defending themselves. That's why they're attacking every single nation on earth. That's why they're impoverishing the United States, stealing all the money from everybody and controlling all these world governments because they don't want to have any anti-Semitic people around when they're not even Semites. It's freaky. It's just freaky. It's like a clown show. The whole world has become a Jewish-run clown show. And the Jews control the world, folks. They do. And people have no idea what's coming. I mean, I've said so many times, hundreds and hundreds of times I've said over the last 15 years that Palestine is the greatest moral dilemma we face in the world today. And if people cannot look within their hearts and heal the situation in Palestine, then the way of Palestine will be the way of the world. And they're showing you in Palestine and in Syria and in Lebanon, and by bombing this aid flotilla in international waters, which is an act of international terrorism, nothing else. No excuse for it. It's an act of international terrorism with 30 activists on board, tried to sink the ship. All of this shows you exactly what they're about. And people literally have no idea what's coming. People who are apathetic about this, people who are just watching these type of broadcasts like I'm doing and so many other people in the resistance are putting out, people just watching this as entertainment, like infotainment, and not acting upon the information that we're giving them. They have no idea what's coming. They have no idea what they're in for if they don't stop complying with this system and don't stop complying with the people that are doing all this. And again, it's easy to do, folks. I mean, I have nothing to do with these people. In anything that I do, I have nothing to do with them. You know, I don't vote, I just don't participate in the system at all. The only thing that connects me to the system is the fact that I've got a passport and I've got a driver's license, simply so I can have freedom of movement. I'm not interested in trying to argue with people on the side of the road or all that sort of shit. I just want freedom of movement to be able to go and do what I do. You know, to be able to travel the world and live my life the way I want to live it. But all of them are war criminals, is the thing, you know. All your governments are war criminals. Any government that is supporting what Israel is doing is a war criminal government, populated by war criminal politicians, and therefore they've abdicated any privilege they had to govern. The only reason they continue is because people don't call them out for that. People don't listen to anything that people say. Like they see this and they hear it all, but they just don't act on it. See what I've been saying about local councils here in Australia. If you're getting any fines from local councils for anything you're doing, stepping outside the lines in any way, understand that local councils are not government. They don't have the right to fine you. They don't have the legal authority to fine you. They can't create laws. They can't issue fines. They can't do any of this sort of stuff. We had a referendum in Australia in 1988 asking the people, would they give governmental power to local councils? And everyone voted no. But the councils claimed that authority anyway. So if the council comes at you with a fine here in Australia, wants to fine you for anything, you go to magistrates court with the fine and say, well, actually this case cannot be heard in a magistrates court because the basis of this case is local councils assuming they have the power of government, which they have no legal authority to claim. So therefore this is a constitutional matter, can only be heard by the Supreme Court. And you take the matter to the Supreme Court. Wow, this rain's getting pretty hectic, folks. Well, there's one little cloud just coming in. The rest of the sky is kind of blue. Look at that. Blue sky. Blue sky. Rain cloud. Crazy. So I guess I'll stay here under this shelter for now. I guess this is going to be a pretty short video, folks. I wanted to keep it short anyway. Maybe I can even get one out under an hour. Wouldn't that be good? But your local councils don't have any authority. That's the thing. But nobody ever challenges that. Nobody ever looks at it the right way. Local council gives them a fine, they just pay the fine. Rather than actually opting not to pay the fine and going to court and saying this is a constitutional matter, needs to be heard by the Supreme Court. Because if it's actually heard by the Supreme Court, the council's going to back down. They can't do anything about it. People say, well, I can't afford to go to the Supreme Court. Well, speak for yourself. Go there and just speak for yourself. You don't need a lawyer or any of that sort of stuff. Go there and speak for yourself, folks. You know, you have authority in this matter, not the local councils, not the government. All the governments have abdicated any privilege they had to govern anyway, simply by their refusal to acknowledge the war crimes of Israel and their support for these war crimes. So, now this could be a real turning point for the entire world, folks, if people actually get what is going on here and act against it. This could be a turning point for the whole world. Hey, here comes the rain. It's definitely changed, folks. It was a sunny day when I got here. Like less than an hour ago, it was a beautiful sunny day, and now it's all rainy. Crazy, crazy. But yeah, I mean, I hope these fires in Israel continue. I hope the aid flotilla continues and actually gets through. There needs to be more of it. And like I said, I hope there's some sort of an international coalition that gets put together to actually go and deal with this problem. But I think it's only going to happen if the people stand up and call it. The people demand that it happens, and if the government won't do it, well, do it yourself. That's what people need to do. And I'd like to organise a group of people, but it's got to be done in the right way. Of course, you can't just get on a boat and go there with food, because like we just saw, they'll bomb you out of the water. But there's certain things that I think can be done, and when I have more information on that, I'll share with you. But there's certain things I think that can be done, but the key to the whole thing is non-compliance. The key to the whole thing is for people to recognise the corruption of this system and realise that it's the politicians themselves that are the criminals. It's the politicians who are stealing everything from the country, stealing all the wealth. Even what Trump's doing, he's not making the people great, not making anything good for the people, he's just making the corporation great. And he's doing it on behalf of Israel. They even said in that thing I played you on the last report, he's like the first Jewish president.
It's an honor to be here with the first Jewish president of the United States.
Yeah, so they tell you what's going on. They don't mind admitting what they're doing. They just have so much hubris that they believe they're going to get away with it. And they kind of are, because not a lot of people are arcing up about it. I mean, there are. You saw that thing that I had at the start of the video, the last video, when all those people at the Bernie Sanders rally all just started chanting Free Palestine. That was an incredible thing to see. And that was at a Bernie Sanders rally. And Bernie Sanders is a Zionist. They weren't here to hear him talk, or maybe they were. But as soon as the Palestinian flag got dragged out and that woman got arrested for displaying it, everyone arced up and just started shouting Free Palestine and turned it into a whole pro-Palestine rally. Of course, saying in America now, this is pro-Hamas, you're pro-terrorist. That's how backwards the world's become. You've got Israel carrying out the worst acts of terrorism ever seen, and anybody who doesn't support it is a terrorist. Anybody who protests against it and supports freedom for the people of Palestine and Gaza is a terrorist. It's crazy. When Israel's running Hamas anyway, Israel kept Hamas in power. Israel made sure Hamas was well funded, because as Bibi Netanyahu said, you need to do this to ensure the state of Israel continues and to prevent any formation of a Palestinian state. Hamas must be portrayed as a terrorist group that is waging attacks against Israel for Israel to be able to survive and be able to annex Gaza and do everything that it's doing now. The whole thing has been a play, as was World War I, World War II, and everything else these people have done. It's incredible, folks, incredible. But we're at a turning point. People can see it now. People can see what's going on here. This is a silent, quiet, hidden war that's been going on for years and years and years. And they're really bringing it to the head now. They believe their Messiah is going to be put in place in another 2 years, and they want to get everything in place by then. And they really believe they can't lose, because, we've been kicked out of everywhere, but we're still here. We're still doing it. Yeah. Because of the other Jews who don't support it. Because the people who do support it are kind of a Jewish mafia, and they've created this whole spectre of anti-Semitism and the Holocaust and all sorts of bullshit so that the Jews will get sympathy. Someone actually commented, they said, the Jewish mafia is a snake in the grass, and the decent Jewish people are the grass that the snake is hiding in. They're the ones that are covering it up. It's really hard to trust anybody who calls themselves a Jew anymore, because why would you, in the face of this? I mean, it's a religion, it's a faith, it's not a race. Otherwise you wouldn't have white Jews, black Jews, Semitic Jews, Jews from all over the place. So it's not a race, it's a faith. And if you choose to still identify with that faith in the face of everything that it's done over the last 2 years, well, what worth are you? What worth is there to you? Why would you do that? Why would you choose to identify with something so evil? Because these are the most evil people ever seen on earth, folks. So, one thing that Gaza has done, and this whole genocide has done, I mean, I was someone who was always very outspoken that you can't criticize all the Jews, because there's a lot of good Jews out there, and, a lot of people aren't involved in this, and there is a certain effort to promote anti-Semitism because that only ever benefits Israel. And people all trolling all your videos going, name the Jew, name the Jew. Most of these people are Israelis because doing that just supports the Israeli agenda, and I've always been of that opinion. But after the last 18 months, I just think all of these people should fuck off and die. Honestly, the world would be a far better place if Judaism didn't exist. It should be banned. It should be named as a terrorist faith, a terrorist religion, the way they've tried to do with the Muslims, which, you know, isn't a terrorist religion. It's Jews who carry out all the terrorism. They often dress like Muslims to do it, the way they did with the bombing of the King David Hotel when Benjamin Emanuel was the actual killer, Rahm Emanuel's father. He was the actual bomber in the King David Hotel. The way MI5 set up Operation Embarrass and claimed it was Palestinian militants that were trying to prevent the Jews from coming. 9/11, blamed it on Muslims when it was actually Jews. Jewish fingerprints all over 9/11, like ridiculously so. The 5 dancing Israelis. There's so much to show that Israel was involved in this. Not the least of which is Larry Silverstein buying the building and then insuring it against terrorism and then collecting twice because there were 2 buildings and 2 terror attacks. And he's bought this building which would have cost billions, like much more than he paid for the buildings. It would have cost billions to clean the asbestos out of these buildings and actually do anything with them. They were condemned. They weren't going to last. And there's Larry Silverstein paying this incredible price for them. And then suddenly they got destroyed 2 weeks later and he claimed the insurance policy. And then he built whatever it is now, World Trade Center 1 or whatever it's called, the new building there. I mean, this just shows. Frank Lowy and Larry Silverstein were heavily invested in that. Israeli fingerprints all over the attack. Israeli fingerprints all over all the wars, all the terrorism, everything that's gone wrong in the world in the last couple of 100 years. You can find Jews are at the bottom of the whole thing. So what does that tell you? I mean, the Jewish faith should be outlawed as a terrorist faith, as an extremist ideology. And Zionism should be outlawed worldwide as a worldwide terrorist network. And all of its proponents and supporters should be arrested and face time in jail. Put them on Christmas Island, whatever. Put them somewhere where they can't harm the rest of the world. Send them down to Antarctica. Put them in Oblast. Put them in Jewish Autonomous Oblast and build a huge freaking wall around it the way they've got one around Gaza. And just keep these people contained. Either that or just exterminate them altogether, you know. I don't really want to have that on my conscience. So I can just put them somewhere and let them just rape, pillage and plunder amongst themselves the way they do. You know, pornography, all that sort of shit. Let them do all that from their own little place and let them keep it for themselves. You know, pornography, this is all a Jewish invention. Terrorism itself is a Jewish invention. Pornography, like Pornhub, is run by a rabbi. Apparently the biggest gay website as well, whatever that is. I'm not familiar with gay websites, folks, but apparently one of the biggest gay websites was actually put together by an elderly Jewish couple as well. There's all the stuff they were doing in Germany, which is why Hitler wanted them out. And what the book burnings were all about. These people have been a blight on humanity and a blight on human consciousness for years. It wouldn't surprise me if these are the people who destroyed the old culture, Tartaria, or got rid of all the free energy, all that sort of shit, so they could enslave the people. Imagine how free our society would be if there was free energy, if you didn't have to pay for energy. All the wars that they claim are to, you know, steal resources and all this sort of shit. You wouldn't need any of this if we had free energy, folks. And we did have free energy and it was taken from us. So who are the people responsible for that? And when you look at the inordinate amount of control they've got over the world now, well, it becomes pretty apparent who's responsible. Some people say, well, it's the Jesuits, it's not the Jews. The Jews are the scapegoats for the Jesuits. It's all the same thing, folks. It's all the same thing. When you look at religion and Jesus and the Bible and all this sort of shit and the Jesuit situation and the Vatican, all set up by the same people, folks. All designed to control you. I've said before, you don't need any religion to have a connection with God. You don't. The religion actually gets in the way of your connection with God. You're not able to feel with your heart and connect with your heart. You've got to do what it says in the book. That's a scam right there, folks. So yeah. But anyway, that's about all I've got to say. I want to try to keep this short today. I've got so much to do. I've had a lot of people coming around using the Tesla machine. It's actually, I've lent it to someone today. It's gone up to Brisbane to treat this guy who's got a pretty bad cancer situation, and we're going to see how he goes. Give him a couple of hours on the machine, see what sort of a result it gets. I've been getting some good results with people around here. There's been some good responses. I've had a few people coming around using the machine. They've all told me that they've got improvements in their conditions, back problems and gastro problems and pinched nerves and sciatica and all sorts of stuff, and people are sort of getting some good responses from that, so that's good. So I've lent it to this guy so he can take it up and treat this guy who's I think he's like a terminal cancer patient. He's got to the point that they put him on chemo, and chemo is just going to kill him. Chemo is horrendous. Chemo just kills cells, folks. It's such a stupid medicine. It's so ridiculous. I mean, the concept with chemo, they inject radiation into you, and they figure, well, there's more healthy cells in your body than there is cancerous cells. So if we just start injecting you with a substance that just kills cells randomly, then chances are it's going to kill all the cancer cells before it kills you. That's the logic. It's pretty bent freaking logic, folks. But that's the logic with chemo. And it's so expensive, it just drains all your money out of the bank. So you're at the end of your life, they give you this substance which slowly kills you, and it costs you your entire fortune you've got saved in order to do it, so you've got nothing to pass on to your children. So it's basically just this big scam to milk you dry of any wealth and slowly kill you at the end of your life. And cancer isn't what they tell us. I mean, most people, when they've got tumours and stuff, there's never really any sort of problem with them until the governments come along and the doctors come along and they pierce the tumour, and then it becomes a problem. There's even talk that cancer is actually there to help you. It's actually like a little bag of poison that your body is dumping stuff in to get it out of your body. But then they go and they give you a biopsy and all this sort of stuff, and suddenly the cancer spreads throughout the entire body after you've had the biopsy. What does that tell you? But anyway, this guy's getting treatment on the Tesla machine today, and I hope it works out well for him. What else is happening? I want to start working on a new film. I've kind of started. I want to do part 2 of Transformation, which I've wanted to do for the last 13 years. And I've been so busy with doing these reports and videos and moving around the place and just kind of riding the wind that I haven't had a chance to do it. I really want to start working on that. I might even get these videos down to like once a week. They've only kind of been once a week recently anyway, because I've been traveling around so much and I've had such unstable internet where I live, and it's been pissing down rain here almost every day since I arrived. Quite sudden rainfalls like you just saw. All that's gone now, all that cloud. That's all gone now. That's where the big rain cloud was, just there. Now it's all gone. Look at the sky now. And yet it was just raining profusely just a few minutes ago. Crazy stuff, folks. Really, really crazy stuff. Look, it's sort of gone over there a little bit now. But yeah, it's just raining non-stop here for so many weeks now. The people that I'm staying with say it's been raining like this for 8 months. It's destroying all the crops, destroying everything, flooding out everything, all the ground's waterlogged. Crazy stuff. But yeah, so I might, once I get out of Australia and get back to where I want to be, and again, I'm not going to be leaving forever, I'll be back here. But once I get out of here, I might reduce the shows to once a week or once every 2 weeks, even once a month, just for a little while, so I can spend some time creating another documentary. I'd like to do another feature-length film, I really would. There's a lot of work in it though. It took me like 18 months of solid work to put together Transformation. I did that all by myself, and it took me like 18 months to complete it. It took probably 14 months for me to do The Awakening. Working by yourself. A lot of people say, even Jeff says, you should employ people to do video editing for you and stuff like that. I can't really afford to employ people. And also, I mean, I'm really fussy. I'm kind of artistic and I'm really fussy, and I don't like other people editing my videos for me. I want to make sure it's exactly what I want it to be. So I'm a little bit apprehensive about employing anyone to do it, like I said, also because I can't really pay them. So And then I put the documentaries out for free, so there's no kind of financial benefit for them in helping me. It's just, if their heart's in the right place and they want to do it. But then they've got to be someone that I trust with video editing and trust giving access to my website and my channels and all that sort of stuff. So it's kind of tricky. Some people that I've opened up to and trusted with things, they've sort of spat it back at me and used it against me and all sorts of stuff like that. So people kind of social engineer you to get close to you, and then they turn on you, and you've got to kind of watch that. A lot of devious people out there, folks, that you want to trust. And I'm a very trusting person, I just don't automatically think the worst of someone. I just give everybody the benefit of the doubt and take them at face value. It isn't until they completely mess up and show me that they're, nefarious type of people and are committing nefarious actions that I kind of arc up about it. But I like to give everybody the benefit of the doubt. I'm just very trusting. I like to see the good in people rather than automatically judge people as being bad. And it's kind of worked quite well for me through my life. I believe everybody messes up at some point. I mean, I messed up a lot when I was young. I was like a walking fucking train wreck, But even with that, I mean, seeing how dysfunctional I was in my early life, it makes it difficult for me to judge other people, especially young people. If they're going down the wrong path. I mean, I can try to help them and advise them and offer them suggestions on how to get onto the right path. But I don't like to judge them as being bad, because most people are simply a product of this society. And this society is designed to find that little spark of sociopathy in people and nurture that and make it continue to grow. Everybody's got to pay to be alive, so everybody's got to work to exploit the people around them and make profit from them so that they can live by simply putting other people in scarcity. I mean, it's a really, really messed up system that we live in. And when you look at that, you look at the education system and the amount of people that spend so much money on education, then they leave college and whatever and they can't get a job. They just got a huge student loan to pay off and they can't get a job because there are no jobs, and it's just going to get worse and worse and worse. Maybe this is another reason why Trump is pulling so much money out of education, because there's not going to be any jobs. So what's the point of getting educated? What's the point of getting a college degree or a university degree when there's not going to be any jobs anyway? That's maybe why he's pulling funding from Harvard and all these other education institutions. And of course, pulling money from housing puts people against each other, puts people in more scarcity, so the crime rate goes up. Next thing, the United States is going to be a full-blown police state. I mean, Trump is really turning into a full-blown dictator, folks. Apparently he's the least popular president ever, even apparently less popular than Nixon. And that's really saying something. So yeah, but he still goes out there and does little dances and his little, wears his MAGA hats and all sorts of crap like that. And the United States is becoming an unrecognizable entity. Land of the free, home of the brave. Yeah, right. Certainly ain't that anymore. But as I've said before, I mean, this is the way it's got to be done. America has to be destroyed from within because the people are all armed. You've got to destroy America in a believable way that people will see it as being this natural event. They can blame Russia, they can blame China, whatever. Oh, Trump just came in and tried to make America great again, and all these other countries arced up and stopped trading with us and all sorts of stuff like that. He wants to abolish income tax, everything like that. He's a really good man. He's doing everything he can to help the country. It's all a play, folks. Trump is absolutely a player in all of this. I mean, he's got an actor star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, folks. What's he doing with a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame if he isn't an actor? Incidentally, who else has got stars on the Hollywood Walk of Fame as being good actors, folks? The Apollo crew. The crew that apparently went and landed on the moon, Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin. They've got a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, which is for actors. What does that tell you about the moon trip, folks? It's such a joke. It's just such a joke. Everything they do is such a joke, and it's so predictable, and it's such a farce. This whole system is such a freaking farce, folks. It really is. But anyway, like I said, I'm going to leave it there for now. Try to keep this video short. Hopefully it's under an hour. Might be just on an hour. It'll be a short one for me, folks, which is good. Again, anybody who wants to come to Liverpool in September in Europe, Really looking forward to that in Serbia, in Apatin. You can go to the Acapulco website, get yourself a ticket. It's a lot cheaper than Acapulco too. It's only like a 3-day or 4-day event, Acapulco. It's great too. It's really good. It's in a really nice country setting, sort of similar to this. And it's a good event. I'm looking forward to that one. You can also get Acapulco tickets from the link below, and you can use my coupon IGAN, IGAN, to get yourself a 10% discount on your ticket. That's a good thing. You can also use my coupon to get yourself a discount on the Tesla machine if you can afford to buy one. I haven't been promoting the Tesla machine that much because, I mean, like, I like it and all that sort of stuff. It's so expensive, and I find it difficult to promote something that is so expensive. I don't know why it's so expensive, but hey, I don't want to say anything bad. I mean, I've had great results with it, but it will be nice to see the price come down on it, make it affordable for people. But yeah, you can use my name, Egan, if you want to get $500 off that as well. And the same thanks that I always give people, the people who send me so many kind emails. There's so many people have reached out to me here in Australia and offered me accommodation, places to stay. I've really received a lot of those sort of emails, and I really appreciate all the people reaching out and doing that. But I'm pretty kind of good where I am at the moment. I'm not planning on staying here too much longer, so I don't particularly want to just pack up all my stuff and then move somewhere else, only to then pack it all up and move again back to Mexico. So I'll just stay where I am for the time being. But I really do appreciate all the offers people are giving me. And I appreciate all the kind emails. And of course, I really appreciate anybody who contributes to the website or sends me a donation. You people have been fantastic over the last 15 years or so, actually the last 9 years since I've been collecting donations. You've really kept things going for me, and you've kept the message going. So thank you for that. And most especially, thank you to all the warriors out there on the front line. Anybody speaking out and making a difference. It's really important that people get involved, folks. Like I said, people have got no idea what's coming. Don't think you can just ignore this situation. Don't think you can ignore what Israel is doing and it's all just going to go away and things are going to go back to normal. They're not. You know, the whole COVID scamdemic and everything that's come about since then, it's all leading us into a very predictable direction. The direction that I predicted back in my high school years. And it's freaky to see it's kind of here now. Everything that I said back in school, it's all here now. This is like 50 years ago. I was saying this sort of stuff in school, warning people that all this legislation the government's bringing in is just giving themselves more power, and that we're going to end up living in a situation similar to Orwell's 1984. I mean, I was saying this to people in high school 50 years ago. And here we are. And it's just getting crazier and crazier and crazier. And all these power blackouts and things, like France and Spain and Portugal, it's a pretty big area of land, folks, for all of these people to suddenly lose their power. And of course, Spain lost their power straight after they cancelled a weapons deal with Israel. That's the second time they've cancelled a weapons deal with Israel. The first time they cancelled a weapons deal, and within 24 hours we saw those incredible floods in Valencia and Barcelona. And these floods that they had, this is like a few months ago, you probably remember, there was cars floating down the streets. I saw a 3-hour time lapse of the rainfall coming into Spain, and there's no way this is normal, folks. Yeah, and that was a 3-hour time lapse of rain. The rain gauges were registering 150 litres fell in 3 hours. 150 litres in a rain gauge. There's no way you can say that's a natural storm, folks. This was done, and it happened within 24 hours of them cancelling an arms deal with Israel. Without, you know, they're buying weapons from Israel, buying bullets or weapons or guns or whatever. Because that's Israel's main export, is weapons. Battle-tested weapons. They're not battle-tested, they're tested on humans because they go in and they murder Palestinians with them to show you that they work. So they're not battle-tested, but they are tested. That's its main export, is weapons and terrorism And human body parts. Israel is the main source of human organs in the world, all harvested from Palestinians, and organs have got to be harvested alive, folks, as well, so make no mistake about what's going on there. And one of its other major exports is skin. Israel has the largest skin bank on earth as well. Now you hear about the other Nazis making lampshades out of human skin. No, it's Israel who collects human skin. Look at this horse over here, folks. This is one of the most beautiful horses. She was riding around here earlier on when I arrived. Absolutely beautiful horse, really, really lovely. Good to see that sort of stuff. Sorry, I get a little bit sidetracked with nature, folks. There she is again. Beautiful horse. Brown and white. I don't know what you'd call that. There's probably a name for it. Kind of like an Appaloosa, only brown, you know. So not an Appaloosa, but yeah. But beautiful horse. I lost track of what I was saying. Yeah, Israel, skin banks, that's right. Yeah, Israel is the most evil thing that I've ever seen exist on earth. And really, it's not just Israel, it's this Jewish mafia. It's the most evil thing that I've ever seen. It's these people who have created so much damage and so much hardship for people over the last 2,000 years, which is why they've been kicked out of every country they've ever been in for the last 2,000 years. They believe that they're now home and hosed because they've got Palestine, they've claimed Palestine as a Jewish state, and they're now in control of the US government, which is one of the most major superpowers on earth. I would suggest, you know, I mean, sure, America's been involved in a lot of wars, but I think this is why so much time and money in the United States is spent on weapons production, so that Israel could eventually claim the country and claim themselves as being undefeatable, and claim that anybody who speaks out against them is anti-Semitic. Such a scam, folks, such a scam. And sure, they might have a lot of weapons, they might have a lot of stuff, but ultimately it's going to be decided by the people, whether we choose to go along with this. And I'm seeing more and more people wake up, and I'm hoping that we're not going to choose to go along with it, that we're going to usher in the type of world that we want. But step one in that is realizing that the governments are literally criminal corporations. The governments are the great thieves on this earth. They're doing everything they can to milk the wealth of all of the people of their nations and transfer it over to themselves and depopulate their nations along the way. I mean, it's so obvious to people. I just don't know why people can't see it. I mean, if I could see this when I was in high school, here we are 40 years later and people still can't see it, 50 years later, and it kind of boggles the mind a little bit, folks. It really does. These people are criminal enterprises, and it's time we stop participating in that system. I would have loved to have seen nobody show up to vote in Australia this weekend. Would have been awesome. Just everyone boycott the election, no suitable candidates, just don't even go to the polling booth. What are they going to do, fine the entire country? They can't. You know, it's time we dismiss these people, folks. We have the legal right, we have the opportunity, we have the means, we have the evidence. Why is anyone doing what these people say? And not just in Australia, but in all Western countries, in most countries actually, folks, because they're all controlled by the same people. All of them. You know, Putin's just playing his role. Putin totally supports Israel. He's bringing in new laws in Russia against anti-Semitism. You can't be speaking out against the genocide. I know it's not a genocide. And we can't arrest Bibi Netanyahu. He's trying to defend his country. It's just such bullshit, folks. You know, van der Leer, that was her name, the European leader, the European Union leader, saying they want to send all of their resources to help Israel fight these fires. Not a thing for the people of Gaza. And yeah, Chappelle Corby as well is the Australian woman that got up on drug charges in Bali a few years ago that I couldn't think of before. Wouldn't surprise me if Dutton was involved in that as well. Peter Dutton here in Australia, the head of the opposition, whatever party it is, whether it's Liberal or Labor. I never know who's in charge. I don't know who runs the country at the moment. I don't know whether it's a Liberal government or a Labor government. I don't know. It's just one side of the same coin. And these people change sides so often that who knows. There's a parrot over here, cockatoo. Sulphur-crested cockatoo. He had his crest up then. It was nice to see. He's put it back down again. But Beautiful bird. Probably didn't like me filming him, I guess. Didn't look too happy when I put the camera on him. Strange how that works. I keep getting distracted by nature, don't I? But anyway, folks, I'm going to leave it there for now. Yeah, but we have every opportunity to fix this. We really do. And in many ways, it's great that things have become so visible now. It's great that the world has become so dystopian. There's even some sort of a hidden blessing in the destruction of the people of Gaza, is that it's waking so many people up. So don't let their sacrifice be for nothing. And remember, they don't have a voice. You are their voice. And we need more and more people speaking up about the situation in Palestine. That's why I continue to do it, folks, and I will continue to do it. And don't forget, if you can make a donation to my friend Nadal, please do so. They're having a really, really hard time, and he doesn't have to go out and deal with the chaos of the aid distribution centres, because, like I said, there's still a couple of shops open that still have a little bit of supply. Not much, but what supply they do have is incredibly expensive, folks. So I don't even know why they're making it so expensive. I guess just to try to make it last longer, because it doesn't matter how much money you're collecting from your, ramping up of the prices. I mean, where are you going to go to spend it? The whole of Gaza and Palestine's been destroyed and you can't leave. So what are you going to do with all this money that you're making by raising the prices on food? But again, I guess they have to do that just to try to stretch it out and make it last. Make it, out of reach for some people, so that, they've still got some. I don't know. But please do what you can to support my friend Nadal. And again, thank you to all the people who support me and support the Crow House. I couldn't do any of this if it wasn't for you guys, and you guys have been great. And all the people on the front line speaking out. Continue to speak out, folks. Make your voices louder. Bring more and more people into the resistance. We need everybody to see what's going on. And once enough people see it and we just stand up and say no, all these parasites have got nowhere to go. I think we're heading to that now. So anyway, folks, I'll leave it there for now. Thank you for joining on this report. It's always a pleasure to have your company. I look forward to speaking to you again soon. Please take very good care. Until then, in Lakesh.